y2 is 7 minus y1, 4. And then x2, 1 minus x1, 3.
You can that one, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so 7 minus 4 is 3. And 1 minus 3 is a negative 2. So the slope is negative 3 halves. Okay? And then number 2, same type of problem, just finding slope. Okay, and when there are mistakes made, if there are mistakes made, it's usually you're putting, the x and the y together. All right, remember, y2, negative 2, minus y1, 4. x2, negative 4, minus x1, negative 3. So just remember, y minus y, x minus x. Don't mix your x's and y's. That's a common mistake if a mistake is made. Okay, so I get negative 6 in the top for this, and minus the negatives plus, so negative 1. So that one's positive 6 for 2. Okay, so remember, the other mistake is you'll give me the reciprocals of those because you did what? Put what in the top? The x's. Remember, rise over run is slope. Most of you remember that. Remember what rise means, the up and down, which is our y-axis, right? Run is right and left, that's our x-axis. That's why the y's are in the top and the x's are in the bottom, okay? All right, 3, 4, 5, you have to write an equation of the line for me in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. So you've got to have y by itself when you write these answers, okay? Remember, m is still slope, and b is the y-intercept, which is some point, right? 0 something, okay? Well, number 3, I give you the slope and the y-intercept. So just substitute in. Y equals m1x plus b3. You don't have to do any work. Just plug in 1 for m and 3 for b. That's it. So that's like a gimme, right? You shouldn't miss that one. All right. Number 4, I give you a point and a slope. All right. Yeah. All right. So there's 2 ways to do this. You can use point slope formula. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Or you can just put it in that one. I'll do both ways for you. You use whatever way you want. All right. If I do slope or point slope form, the first one I wrote, you go y minus the y value of the point 2 equals m times x minus the x value. Okay, so this is plus 3 there. So the first step to get y by itself then is to distribute the negative 4 and then add the 2. some of you like doing it that way, which is fine. So that's the equation of the line that goes through that point with the slope of -4. If you want to do it this way, you put 2 in for the y, -4 in for the m, -3 in for the x, and then just solve for b, which is 2 equals +12 plus b, and then get b by itself. You get -10 equals b. So your equation is y equals -4 for m, x, and then b is -10, so you put -10. You get the same answer. Okay? You can do either method, whichever you've been working on or more comfortable with. Questions? Simple, right? Number 5, I give you 2 points, and you have to find the equation of the line. Actually, 3, 4, 5, and 6, we're finding equations of lines, aren't we? So the first step for 5 is to find your m, your slope. And then pick one of the points to figure out the equation. So -8 y2 minus -6 y1 over 2 minus 5 x2 minus x1. Again, we have minus a negative, so remember that's addition. And that gives me -2 and a -3, so that's actually positive 2/3. So I'm going to do the y equals mx plus b way. So, and I'm going to use the first point. So I'm going to use -6 for y, 2/3 for m, and 5 for x. Okay, but you could use -8 for y and 2 for x if you want. Doesn't matter which of the 2 points you pick. Okay. 2/3 times 5 is 10/3. It's just the 2 times the 5. And then we'll subtract 10/3 to figure out what b is. All right, since it's thirds, I always like to get a common denominator. So I can change -6 to thirds. So all I got to do is multiply by 3. What's -6 times 3? -18. So -18 thirds and a -10 thirds is a -28 thirds. Okay, so my answer then is y equals, we figured out m to be 2/3. Okay, so y equals 2/3 x, and then b is -28 thirds. If you wrote 9 1/3 or 9.3 repeating, that's okay. You can use that mixed number or decimal answer if you want. If you put 0.6 repeating for your slope, that's okay too. We usually always write fractions though for slope. Questions on that? Griffith? Sure. So y minus, we'll use the other point too. So the other point was 2 -8. So y minus the y value of the point equals m 2/3 times quantity x minus the x value of the point. So this becomes y plus 8. And then distribute 2/3. Okay, so 2/3 times -2 is a -4/3. When I subtract 8, I'm going to change it to thirds. So 8 times 3 is 24/3. So I get y equals 2/3 x minus, again, -4 and a -24. is a negative 28. We get the same thing. Okay? And again, I use the other point. It doesn't matter which point you use. You'll get the same answer. Okay? Let's go to the next one. All right, so this time we have a point again. And then it says perpendicular. That's the symbol for perpendicular to this line. So what is the slope of the line I'm looking for? Since it says perpendicular to that line. Positive 3 over 2, yes. Opposite reciprocals are the slopes of lines that are perpendicular. Okay, so they gave us a line that had a slope of negative 2/3. We're trying to find a line that's perpendicular to that line. So we flip it, take the opposite. All right, and then we do what we've been doing. So y, negative 6, equals m times x4 plus b. 3 times 4 is 12. What's 12 divided by 2? 6. Oops. That's a b, not a 6, sorry. Subtract 6 to solve for b. Get negative 12 equals b. So the answer to this problem is 3/2 x minus 12. M is 3/2, b is negative 12. So 3, 4, 5, and 6, you're finding equations of lines from the information you're given. Good? All right. Number 7. You're given a function, f of x equals 1 minus 4x. And it says f of x equals 3. And you're supposed to find the value of x so that that function equals 3. All right? So that means we're putting this 3 in for f of x. That's all. Not in there. That's the mistake kids will make. They'll put the 3 here. No good. You put the 3 in for f of x because that's what it says f of x equals. Subtract 1 to solve for x. Divide by negative 4 to finish it out. That's negative 1/2 equals x. So if I would put f of negative 1/2, that answer would be 3. Okay? So, again, it's an easy problem. Make sure you put the 3 in the right spot, that's all. Number 8, f1 of x equals f2 of x. All right? f1 is 4x plus 5. And f2 was x plus 6. So all you're doing is setting them equal. So you're trying to figure out which value of x makes the two functions equal. Okay? So I'm going to take this x on the right over, so I'm going to subtract it. I'm going to take the 5 on the left over to the 6, so I'm going to subtract it also. The 5's cancel on the left, the x's cancel on the right. I get 1 on the right, I get 3x on the left, and then divide by 3 to figure out what value of x makes it equal. So those two problems are just solving equation stuff, algebra 1 stuff, right? It's just in function form. So it should be pretty easy for you. Okay, 9 and 10 are the ones that take a little bit more work. All right, and there's different ways you can do these. So I'll do the 2 different ways by hand on these. You can always put them in your calculator too. What happened there? Did I get too far? I don't think so. I got plenty of room. All right, so number 9, I'll do completing the square. All right, so to complete the square, you keep the x squared and the 4x together on the left and add a blank, and then you take the 1 to the other side, so I subtract it to move it over to the other side, so it's -1, and add a blank, okay? Take half of 4, half of b, which is 2, and square it to fill in the blank. Okay, and what we're supposed to do is put this in vertex form. All right, that's what I'm doing here when I complete the square. Now I can factor this by taking the square root of x squared, the sign in front of the b, which is addition, and the square root of 4, which is 2, and then bring the 3 back over. How do I bring it back over? Subtract it. So now I've got x minus, or x plus 2 squared minus 3. That's vertex form. So that's one answer I'm looking for. Okay. I'm also looking for the vertex. And I can do that by just looking at this. What's the opposite of plus 2? Minus 2. And whatever's out here is your vertex. That's why we call that vertex form. We can look at it and tell what the vertex is. All right, that's the second thing I'm asking. Okay. And the third thing is the axis of symmetry. And that's x equals, that's an equation of a vertical line, whatever the x value of the vertex is. So once I know what the vertex is, I know what the axis of symmetry is. Okay? And then you're supposed to sketch the graph. Okay? So, let's see, -2, -3. Does this open up or down? Up, right? Because my A value is positive. So my axis of symmetry, you don't have to make the marks, but it goes through -2. -2, -3 is right there, let's say. So label it. All right, looking at the original problem, what's my y-intercept? 1, whatever this c value is, right? So right here is my y-intercept. How do I find that other point to make my parabola? Go over 2 to the left, right? Look at your y-intercept and see how far away from the axis of symmetry. That's why I draw it in. It's 2 spots to the right, so I'm going to go 2 spots to the left, which would be -4, 1, right? So just label those 3 points for your sketch, and then connect. You don't have to make all the marks and be perfect. You label those 3 points, tells me you know what's going on. Questions? That's using completing the square. All right. Number 10. I'll do the other way, where I find the axis of symmetry first, and then the vertex, and then put it in vertex form. So to find the axis of symmetry, we have a little formula we can use. X equals negative b over 2 times a. Well, what's my b value? Negative 10. What's my a value? 1. So the top is positive 10 because of the 2 negatives. 2 times 1 is 2. What's 10 divided by 2? 5. So there's one of my answers. Okay? So then if I know the axis of symmetry, I can figure out the vertex, because I know the x value of the vertex is 5. What I do is I substitute 5 in for the x, which is 25 minus 50, so that's a negative 25. Y value for my vertex, so I got that part done. All right, so to put it in vertex form, it's a, which is 1 again, so I can put a 1 there. You don't have to. X minus h, which is the x value of the vertex, squared, plus k. Well, k is negative 25, so we put minus 25. So that's kind of going backwards. Okay, the first method I did completing the square, and I found the vertex form first. Then I knew what the vertex was. Then I knew the axis of symmetry. This time I figured out the axis of symmetry, plug that number in to find the vertex, and then substitute it in for h and k for vertex form. So either way is fine. And again, if you want to just put it in your calculator and graph it and then go from there and finding your vertex and stuff, you can. So again, I have to graph it. And I've got a vertex that's way down there, right? So I'm going to do that. What's my axis of symmetry is through 5, right? So way down here, we'll call this the vertex 5, negative 25. And it opens up again because my a value was a positive 1. What's the c value? What do you see there? You see nothing. So what number is nothing? 0, right? So my y-intercept is 0, 0. How far away is that from the axis of symmetry? 5 units, right? So what's 5 plus 5? 10. So over here is 10, 0. I'll put it inside my parabola because I was running out of room. It's a bad sketch. All right, but there's what it would look like. Remember, if a is negative, it would be going the other way, right? It would be opening down. I don't know if there's any negatives tomorrow or not. All right, so those are the two that take some work, 9 and 10. All right, the last one, you have to tell me if it's a min or a max, and what that min or maximum value is. All right, so our equation is f of x equals negative x squared. So this one, if I had to graph it, would open down. Okay, so since it opens down, is it a min or a max? Max. And then we got to figure out what that max equals. Okay, so I have to find the vertex. Again, you can find the vertex however you want. I think it's easiest to use your little x equals negative b over 2a to find your x value, your vertex, your axis of symmetry. So negative b, b was 6, over 2a, a is negative 1. That's a negative 6 divided by negative 2. So x equals 3. So I'm going to plug 3 in for x to figure out the y value of the vertex. And whatever this equals is the max value. Right, Nate? It's the y value of the vertex that is that max or minimum value. Okay? So this is 3 squared 9, but that makes it negative 9. 6 times 3 is 18. And plus 2. Negative 9 plus 18 is positive 9 plus 2 equals 11. So our maximum value is 11. It's not the whole point, it's just the y value of the vertex. That's the max or minimum value. Questions? Simple, right? So that's what your quiz will look like tomorrow. Okay? Wednesday we'll do extra credit day, bonus. Some of the bonus, so be here. And I'm sure you'll be ready tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right here.
I only have one question. I missed how you got that four for the blank.
Half of 2.
Honestly, I should go.
Why haven't you?
The b value divided by 2 and then square it.
I'm just,
Square
when
it.
I can do it,
Right, so
yeah,
half
I was about to say, I'm not gonna be able to do it, I'm gonna be like 4 weeks behind. I'm gonna get